So I was in the middle of telling you about this.
What happened, John? What happened?
Look at this. Okay. This fell in. I went to the bed. Then, 2 minutes later after I lie down, my mouth is burning. All of my gums, cheeks, tongue, everything in my mouth, soft tissue is burning.
Wow.
Then I check to see, a normal, you have like slippery, the saliva, and it's just cheek cells, cheek tissue, face. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
But when I lay down, it felt like a molecule thick layer of like rubber that was coating every surface of my mouth because I just drank solvent solubilized rubber. Okay? And what else do you know about my condition? Do I have an apparent hole in the back of my throat that I've been complaining about?
Yeah, you have been complaining about that.
And where does it go?
To your brain.
In a specific hemisphere, right? And I've told you stories where even Sarah would say, "Oh my God, you just drank hot tea," and you say your eye is hot, and she feels the hotness on that eye because hot tea pooled up behind that eye socket in the brain. Understand?
Yes.
You're very rigid. You, this is for private use, no? But only this eye. Rozumiesz?
Mm-hmm.
Only this eye.
Only one.
And then after that, I couldn't think. For a few hours, I couldn't think. There's no other way to say it. I just couldn't think. Remember when I was 17 years old, dostał taki zastrzyk tutaj?
Yeah.
And they gave me like autistic symptoms immediately?
Yeah, I remember.
And I started complaining to people like, why am I staring at the wall for hours at a time?
Yeah, I remember.
That's not normal. I don't recall ever doing that before. Why have I suddenly entered into a dimension where I'm staring at the wall all the time, like a dumbass? Understand?
Mm-hmm.
This did the same exact thing. Had the same effect. I'm never staring at the wall like that. Or even if I am, I'm always thinking behind my eyes, it's still operational.
Yeah.
It stopped. It felt exactly like a post-zastrzyk from when I was 17 because it's the same phenomena. It's foreign atoms going into brain to directly interfere with the neural channels. Understand?
Yes.
I poisoned myself with this. Okay? What happened after that? After a couple of few hours, I'm walking around, very angry, sad, like, what happened? Did I screw myself? Is my life over? What happened? Okay? I'm looking around, all of a sudden, I can't see well. It looks like everything, all the lights in the żarówki in the whole house is as if someone took them out and put like 3 times darker żarówki.
Like dimmer. Huh?
Everything in my vision was dimmer. My phone was dimmer, but it wasn't really dimmer. My eye's ability to read what's there became poison interfered. Okay?
Oh my gosh.
Right. Okay? Because I have fucking holes in my head for 2 years or more, no one's helping me, man.
So this went away, or you have this?
No, it didn't go away. It's halfway better now. I'm still half dealing with it today, yesterday.
Sorry.
You can't even make this shit up.
Yeah. So how is the vision now? You still don't see so good?
It's both eyes. It's not one eye that's damaged because it's the whole brain that's fucking damaged. And you think that's the only thing that's been damaged in my brain? What have you been seeing for the last year? I cannot even talk properly.
Yeah, sometimes you...
Tell me, hold up some fingers right now. Go ahead.
How many fingers do you see?
Yeah, that's my best answer to you. Nothing. Silence. I could tell you how many with here. This many I'm holding up. Is that the number? It's this many.
Yes.
I cannot even say it.
Cannot
but
verbalize.
ask me to count.
Count?
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, you see, I know how to say numbers.
Okay.
But ask me to identify the count of fingers you're holding up now. Go ahead.
How many fingers I'm holding up? You cannot
It is not
verbalize.
coming. My brain's disconnected. I've lived like this for 2 years. Well, like this for 8 months or 10 months. But still, it was allowed to happen because I had initial damage from 5 years ago, which got worse 2 years ago, which got worse 8 months ago, because it keeps knocking over more domino, because every time the new domino knocks over, I say, help, someone get responsive action in my life, and I only have 2 women in my life. You and Gupya fucking piece of crap who's acting like one at the very least, so I'm going to call her how she's acting until it's otherwise, Sarah.
Okay, we have been scheduling appointments.
No. You're not understanding. No, you're not understanding.
Okay, explain.
Okay? So what have you, I mean, I don't know even where to start. Okay? But the one damn thing I hate in this world, just so that it's made damn clear, ty rozumiesz, is lies, is deceit, is dishonesty, is misrepresentation, and is people doing the wrong thing. You don't do the right thing, I don't like you.
Yeah, of course. Nobody likes that.
And no one likes it, but people don't like it only for selfish reasons, insofar as it is a personal affront to them. Well, guess what? Most of the time that you don't like something is only because you're a hypocrite. Because it's with someone doing something to you that most likely you've been doing the same thing somewhere else in life. But ever since I woke up from a coma 5 years ago, everything is different. In ways you cannot even imagine. So to tell you about it is useless to tell you with words what is different. Okay? When you upregulate your GABA B receptor density in all your neurons in your entire body to the point that you end up in a coma, what do you think happens? You wake up and you can understand foreign languages. You could smell the different formulations of plastic and every piece of plastic component around you within 50 yards and identify them by the triangular number that's manufactured on the bottom.
So you have like
I could smell
powers.
your emotions. I can read what you're thinking. It's not psychic. You think that's psychic because that's what you would think if you are down here and you don't understand. To się nagrywa, co ty robisz?
To znikło, nie wiem co to się zrobiło.
No to jest dobrze, jeszcze wygląda, że się nagrywa. Because let it be damn known what the truth is here.
Yes. You should speak the truth.
Okay? Me and you have had our own familial difficulties lasting three years or so, huh? To admit. To openly admit. Okay?
Yes.
And after 3 years of going back and forth and all the detailed issues that we don't have to go over now, but you understand because this was between you and me. After 3 years, finally, I talk to you at the end, and with insight, I tell you a structure, exactly the reality of the thing, and for you it was like what? Did you understand what I told you?
Yeah, I understood.
And I had to put 14 hours of audio content on YouTube narrating the structure of exactly what it means to, what is correct expectation in reality versus incorrect expectation in reality, and then you understood. And then you say, I'm sorry. Before that, you're not sorry. Afterwards, you're sorry. How is that? Because every time someone in this world does sickness, the only reason they do sickness is out of ignorance or out of evil. When it's out of evil, that is still a form of sickness, but when it's out of ignorance, boy, is that an even worse sickness in some sense. Because you're missing context. And they say that when you upregulate, it's not that they say, excuse me, I'm going to tell you what the actual reality is from my own experience. When you upregulate GABA B receptor density, now you personally, you don't drink much. How many times you've been piyana in your life, drunk?
Never.
No. Well, then that does not...
I never drink, I just don't like
Right,
it.
then this does not help. But then understand this. Anyone listening probably understands what it is to be drunk. Okay? Well, In that state of mind, you're hazy, everything's misty, everything's cloudy. And then the process from losing drunk is sobering up and going back to clarity is like a clarification process, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Upregulating your GABA B receptor density is like taking the real life Limitless pill from that 2011 movie Limitless. And I've made this case very strongly with many, many details to other people around me. I've typed up thousands of pages of work by now, though I stopped doing that writing 2 years ago or more when my things got worse, that I began to have brain mechanistic problems. And I'm begging other people to help be my arms and legs. I'm disabled without being officially labeled as such, recognized yet. You understand?
Yes.
It's not good. I didn't choose this. I'm a prisoner in my own fucking brain. I'm a prisoner in my own fucking body. And I'm saying every day, help anybody who has ears. You understand?
Yes.
You've been watching this shit.
I want to help you.
Right. Well, we'll see what happens. I don't count help until it's help manifested in practical results that I see that are happening. I'm too tired of people saying things and only is talk. Okay?
Okay.
Okay? To that end, what's it like taking a GABA B upregulator and getting to the point of getting a coma with this particular combination of 3 or 4 things I took? In medicine, they don't know. I was the first ever case on the planet recorded, documented. You understand?
Yes.
They said this in the study that they wrote on me, which is online. I'm a fucking freak. But I'll tell you what it is to be the real life Limitless man. Never mind the fact that the GABA B upregulation, which is required for supreme insight, is also something that disables your liver from working correctly. That's why it's not a natural state. You understand that? Not only you can't metabolize any of the existing drugs, solutes, compounds, or anything else you throw in, how many times have you then heard and seen, if I take a drink of alcohol, you smell it from my skin for a week?
Yeah.
Remember that?
I remember, yes.
Or how many times, not how many times, I really slowed my recreational drug use to a stop after that from when I was back in my late 20s, once it became clear that my liver doesn't work anymore. Because when you go to the ecstasy pill in the club and take that, normally it's supposed to last you 2 hours or 3 tops. Not 12 days. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, and if so many solutes in your flesh backed up because when your liver doesn't clear the solutes by allowing them to become first metabolized and then drain out the urinary tract, those solutes will then build up until the point of supersaturation, which is known as crystallization. Insofar as you're made up of only water and oil as solvents primarily, this means your flesh gets caked with shit. And that's what fosters the subsequent rips. You know what it's like to stand in seawater with your foot and have micro cracks that let the seawater into your systemic circulation? It killed the nerve in my leg for 6 months when I did that. You can't even appreciate the level of damage I live with. Everything you think is right and wrong in this world about how physics and medicine works that goes out the window with me. Because when you have a brand new circumstance, you have brand new effects that stem from that brand new cause. So it's a brand new tree.
Yeah.
So the interactive elements are all brand new too. All the old rules go out the window because you don't know what it's like to have an upregulated GABA B. You understand?
Yes.
Okay? It's like you were drunk your whole life and then you stopped being drunk. That's the closest thing I could tell you to what that experience was like. Make of that whatever you will. But what else I'm telling you is that since the moment I woke up, everything in life became clear in the same way Jesus Christ came back from the desert and said, this is just really clear. The same way Buddha went away from his meditation tree saying, my God, everything is clear now. The same way Moses came down from the mountain and said, everything is clear now. But that's not a mystery. It's the same GABA B upregulation that they all induced. That's what happens when you don't eat for 6 to 7 weeks. They didn't know what neurons were back then. I'm telling you that's the reason they were all enlightened. It's the same thing making all of today's monks in Tibet who are practicing the same game. What brings them enlightenment. It's much slower while you're eating now. So if they eat 3 times a day, it takes them 10 years or 20 or 90 to get enlightenment.
So you got enlightenment after this poisoning?
All enlightenment or nirvana means is to see things as they really are, not as you would like them to be. Every minute of my life has been re-exposing myself to a world where I'm surrounded by people who only want things to be the way they like it to be. That's like hell, actually. That's living hell. You have hell on earth. That is hell. So I set out on a life mission. I'm here to do the same work as Christ, but first, let me check, was Christ actually right? Before I went into the coma, I was agnostic for 15 years and only had my own spiritual experiences plus genuine psychic experiences which were underpinned by the nucleated aluminum crystals brought in by the vaccine, because right after I took that vaccine when I was 17, I also then began to see a lot of things that would happen immediately afterwards, like a psychic TV. And then actually, if some of my friends say they have the same thing happen. And by no coincidence, they're also like borderline autistic. Everything makes sense. Because when you plant little antennas into the electromagnetic field, what happens to your ability to perceive the broadcast? Okay? I go to the Bible, I read it with new eyes, I scan through, and I say, yep, everything in this world's twisted, but when I look at this, it's the most perfect gem and most harmonized thing I've ever seen in my life. I said, yep, this is perfection. But not only that, not only could I see that the Bible was correct all along, I can also understand its wisdom at the highest levels. I'm explaining the damn book to people. It's not a magic trick. Go, pump yourself up full of GABA B upregulating drugs and agonists and maybe a few other things. I'm not even going to tell. I'm not publicly revealing all things I combine together. It's a combination game, you see. Don't do that. You'll be in a coma. But for whatever reason, God picked me to be in the freak coma guy who has the ability to see and hear and understand everything around me, like some kind of supreme human walking God prophet, figuratively speaking. Am I lying? Well, check this. How many breaths a minute do you see me breathe? It goes to as low as what? And if anyone who's a medical doctor understands what the normal respiratory rate is.
I saw you breathing like 3 breaths per minute, 4 breaths.
Sustained for long, like all day. But how did I do that? Would the oxygen cause me to die? The lack of oxygen?
I'm not sure.
Right, you're not sure. Everyone in darkness doesn't know anything. And I'm telling you, nothing works to think the way you think it is, except when you actually check, I really am breathing at 3 breaths per minute. Oh, so maybe he is a little different, really.
Yep.
I say, I don't feel pain the same way you feel pain. You could cut my arm off, and I'd sit here, have a cup of tea with you. Not only I wouldn't feel the physical pain, I wouldn't feel the psychological pain. There's only one thing that gives me psychological pain. It's the same thing that gives other people psychological pain. It's witnessing evil. It's witnessing immoral, bad, disharmonious events taking place. So ever since then, my whole life has been not perfect, and really, my health only got much worse along the way. I'm not counting on being on this earth very long. I'm probably gonna die. And I accepted that already.
I hope not. Hope you're gonna live long time.
Yeah, I understand that hope. You have only one child, and that's me. And this is where it is. You only hope that you meet a nice girl here or there that ends up being harmonious to you in your life. Is the blessing.
That's very important.
You can't count on your blessings that they're guarantees. But my God, if everything is from God in that sense. You haven't, which means is another way of saying you're not the one who controls it. Fate controls
I agree.
it. It controls it. The matrix, so to speak, around us controls that. You're not the programmer of your own ability, your own successes. So when I started my own initial YouTube channel, where I gave dozens of hours of my first talks, which wasn't properly, unfortunately, wasn't properly. Salesman skills is not one of my skills anymore. It was opposite. I was younger, I was a salesman, but a dumbass. Now I'm like a hyper genius who's a Stephen Hawking type, but I can't sell you anything because salesman is of the devil. It's the ability to polish, and it's a shiny packaging without regard to the substance. Everything is inverted when you go this way. So, what am I getting at here? There's a damn point. What are we talking about now? Half the time, how bad are things with me? Half the time, sometimes I can't tell you where I am. Sometimes I'm out. Have you seen me? Where am I, huh?
Yeah, sometimes you get very confused and you don't even know where you are and you cannot talk, cannot speak.
Wow, that's serious, isn't it?
It's very serious.
I can't. You've seen me when I can't walk, right?
We went to Manhattan,
I know, you and me, I remember one particular day, yeah.
And you couldn't walk for a couple of hours.
And how many more times has the girl I was with until...
Yeah, she
I don't know what the hell to call her now. I'm embarrassed and ashamed, and this is a rebuke. This is a rebuke. And I do have authority, you see? I don't have to yell hard to say I have authority. You know a damn thing by its fruits.
So, do you want to talk about your condition, or you want to talk about...
I'm not a fucking normal person. I don't fit in this world around me. Obviously, you could see. Insofar as anyone is smart enough to take the fucking golden nuggets that protrude from the fountainhead of my mouth when I bring it forth, is a blessing to you. You do what you want with it. But what did I say in my previous video? Which you never saw, actually, I don't think. But everybody around me knows. It's like one of my catchphrases. One of my first principles. The only thing you can control on this earth is what? Is how you treat other people.
That's true.
That's it.
You said it.
Okay?
That's true.
That's number one to tattoo on your forehead and to see every morning until you get it. I'm speaking to everybody on this earth. The only thing you can control is how you treat other people. I just told you a story about how I just went colorblind, halfway colorblind 3 days ago from damaging my vision because of a fucking dissolved solvent chemical I accidentally ingested. Just to say distilled water, and the lid shit fell off and I didn't even see it. I just drank it and boom. Okay? For the last couple of years now, what I do to escape this 3 breath per minute, human God mode, sometimes I want to be more like other people, I have to drink coffee. Why? Because coffee is a GABA antagonist. And it's the only thing that cuts into the GABAergic tone enough that it brings my metabolism to a halfway normal point that I can be more of the people. So I become imperfect. Like God coming down to become man again. Every time I drink coffee is that. So to speak. But you understand what I'm saying?
So if you don't drink coffee, what happens?
I become just super perceptive again. If you leave me for several days without coffee, it's like a tree growing new branches, but it hyper grows, and then I get more insightful. I'll be able to smell plastic again, so I'll tell you what numbered piece of plastic your purse is made from, or the bottle you brought, and you'll check it's correct, so you'll flip out. We've done all these things already. I could stand in the store blindfolded, tell you which apples are organic or not organic, standing from a distance of 3 feet away. Okay, we've done all of these things. It's verified. I'm not on the news or anywhere on social media. Except for a couple people who found my reports who want to talk shit about me, but they don't understand what the thing is. Because that's what hearsay is in life, isn't it? That's what hearsay is. And what does God say? You don't gossip. Why? Because it's uncorroborated. It's hearsay. So when you defame and you cause harm to someone's reputation by speaking, such that your words or your action has the effect of causing one's reputation to go down in the mind of any person in the community, that's a sin. Why is that a sin?
Why is it sin gossiping? Because you should not gossip.
Right, but that's what you say because the book told you so. But when I say why is it a sin, why is it a sin to gossip?
Why is it?
Because what is a sin? And this the Bible does not say even once, which is a shame. So I think the Bible needs a new and better translation. I'll get to it right away. I need help though. But it's obvious. Sin is causing the indignation of any other human being around you. What did I say earlier? The only thing you can control is how you treat other people. So why do you think God gave you free will? There's only one thing you can actually control. So maybe that's what the game has been all about this whole time. See, you like that, right?
Yep, I like this. Like a golden nugget.
They're only always golden nuggets. Start paying attention, planet Earth. I'm finally here. But I'm speaking humbly. I'm speaking in a way that's entertaining so you can laugh a little bit. But to actually appreciate the truth I'm representing with this. But the worst thing is when you have to suffer offense. Jesus says you're blessed when you're offended. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true only insofar as you complete the proper cycle, and the church almost never teaches us correctly today. I've been asked, or at least I've told others, I'd say, listen, you go to church today, they have their own doctrines and their own take on things. I say, first of all, they're almost all wrong or taught without full context, so it's not correctly ascertained by the people. But if I were to be the master of my own church and to go up onto that altar and to preach the real doctrine of God to the people every day, every Sunday, every day, whatever it is, it would be the same thing over and over again. If they're asking, what would be your what's the word? You know, your spiel, the whole thing you do for an hour, your talk.
Mm-hmm.
It would be the same thing, and it's something they never tell you. And it comes from the book of Matthew. I don't remember Matthew 5 or Matthew 18. This is the most important thing in the whole book, but no one recognizes this as such. If you're to boil down the whole Bible, yeah, it would be to the part where it says, love everybody. That also is the most important part. But then the other most important part is this. Because it's the only access route to ensure that perfect society, the utopia, the kingdom of heaven on earth. They all mean the same thing. It's a perfect society, a perfect land. So I was on with my German politician friend, who I forgot to tell you, she's not just a politician, she's the chairwoman of her party in Germany.
What's her name? First
doesn't
name.
matter. I'm not going to use her name. Actually, me and her have a little disagreement now. So, of course, nothing to talk about there, and I'm not happy with that. But when I was talking with her, and she was on the phone with me, and I was explaining to her, I say, listen, you fight for what you believe in, but what you're going to understand now at this time is that the real thing you should be fighting for is a world where everybody treats you, and with my other supposed student here, although I'd like to be careful and accurate with my words, and I don't have much that comes forth at this time, because I want to speak accurately. That's my number one commitment. But others have heard around me.
You know, John, I noticed that you have a gift of saying the
We
things.
just came off of pause just so that we
Yeah.
understand for a
People
moment.
will love to
Why?
hear.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Why was I on pause
Subject.
just a moment ago and I couldn't even
Yeah.
speak? I can't. I talk like this. I'm constantly channeling like Edgar
The
Casey,
information
and
is
then
something.
it just stops and I can't even speak.
Yeah, I know.
And all my life is like some form of this or another.
Yeah, but the way you speak is so entertaining and very interesting. That's what you should do for a living, you know,
Right.
like giving people
Yeah.
information.
I don't
you know,
remember
it's
what.
great stuff.
Yeah, I don't remember what I was saying before, and I have a lot of swimming energy in my head, and I when I talk like this, no. I want to be heard. Because it's about. I can't remember anything I say. And saying when I'm talking like this, I don't know what I just said. Anything I said in the last half hour.
It's like
But
big
I'm saying
children.
something. It's
Yeah.
just going. All my pieces of my brain are disconnected by now. Hold up some number of fingers. Can I tell you? Go ahead.
Yeah, you cannot verbalize.
I can't even tell you how many
Yeah.
fingers. I'm not fucking human. I'm the fucking from beyond. No,
Okay. So how you feel now?
not good.
You
This-
feel like
this-
a little
this
bit
sucks.
confused?
And here's the real problem,
Mhm.
okay? Because insofar as compassion is the vehicle to maintaining that love for people,
Yeah.
you would hope that you would have that compassion from the closest people around you. When you have that compassion based on the facts of what's happening for a particular person and their experience, that factual background sets the context and allows the compassion to be preserved between a mother and child, a family member, a loving wife or girlfriend. And it's when you forget these things that you begin to become the root of the first, or what they call original sin. What's original sin? Is the original sin is the first one they did a long time ago because Eve ate an apple.
Yeah.
I say every original sin is recreated every single day. Original sin is the first sin, the first bad, wrong turn within a relationship between two people, the first act someone does where it causes a domino effect, where everything that comes afterwards, where it's people necessarily doing right or defending their dignity or whatever, but the whole effect field becomes transplanted and translocated as a result of the original wrongdoer. That is the original sin.
Yes.
It's recreated and reformed every single day all across the earth. Okay. So I said, heaven on earth, the thing that Jesus fought for, is when you treat every single person like they're, and come up with one man and one woman who are like the highest regarded people in all of society, like who's one woman that everybody loved? And I've heard a good answer to this before, so I like using it as an example. Who's one woman where She happens to be dead now, the one I'm thinking in my head, but like who's like so high that she's only like her essence is like she's like a great person, a saint almost. Princess Diana.
Yeah.
See, that's just everyone. We all love Princess Diana. That's it.
Everybody
Okay.
loved her.
If you're Princess Diana, how does your life look like to you?
Good.
Yeah. And did you know that the real Princess Diana was tortured?
I know.
You know?
Yes.
Her problems with the ones around her who were the most satanic.
Yeah.
She
wasn't
others
happy.
have said, I'm not casting judgment, and I don't have first-hand knowledge, but I'm repeating, based on reliable information or belief, that which is circulating around. That came from her mouth herself, apparently, and she's one to know. So even people who are regarded as the best are themselves, they have the ability to suffer too. I don't want to sound heretical. There's things that the Catholic Church and I don't fully agree on. There's a figurative truth to Christ being God. Christ is God. Yeshua was of God. So is everybody. It's only a matter of degree. He was just the only one who had it to the full degree. So you are the full emanation of God. Therefore, we can begin to equate.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
It's the essential truth. Where the others have not met to the fullest degree, you cannot be equated because you've fallen short. Fallen short means to miss the mark. And what does the word sin mean in the original Greek?
What?
To miss the mark.
Okay.
All right, I've done a lot of this kind of talking. There's a point to all this, but it would need a whole separate lecture series, and I'm going to leave something good behind on this earth. I don't know how long I'm going to be here for, but this is no.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just going to transition plainly. Okay.
Okay.
Why are we here today? All right. I still have emotion. Christ still suffered. Everybody suffers. What did I tell you? I don't feel pain. You could chop my arm off. I'd smile at you. But what makes the soul suffer is when you transgressed against in the most fundamental way. When you're dishonored as a man, or when you're unloved is in the essence of love, in the general form, regardless of who you are, you're an animal or a person, that is a transgression against you. That is the basis of original sin. Well, in my less perfect state, in my caffeinated state, and I purposely stayed off of coffee for 2 days so I could be able to do this channeling again. Sometimes the coffee gets me to better channel. Funny enough, why? Because it's so lipolytic that it forces my fat cells to expunge out those things which recreate the frequencies, and yeah, it gets wild. You ever met a man whose respiratory rate decreases when you have more coffee?
No,
You're
I
talking
never
to him
met anyone
now.
like this.
You're talking, all the
I
old
know.
rules go out the window with me.
Yes.
This is the new age. I had a girlfriend here. She was good to me, usually. But really, what have you seen? I won't do much talking for now, but you've seen enough. You and my mom. What did you see?
When I met her, she was nice and polite, and usually she was okay. When I saw her with you, she was like very nice and treat you well and talking sweet. But for the last few months, I saw some changes. I will say since like Thanksgiving. She didn't invite you to Thanksgiving or something. I don't know the details of that happened. But anyway, then she didn't invite you to the New Year
Right, but we don't.
party.
Right.
And,
Okay. There's a bunch of specifics. Yeah.
Disinviting things, and I noticed that she was vanishing.
Right, but you're bringing up some specifics about things that you don't actually know the specifics about.
I
But
don't
you've
know the
heard a little
specific,
bit.
and I
But there are
apologize.
things you know specifics about enough that you got an essential impression. And let me tell you, when this recording is not on, you very plainly conveyed to me very spot on things, just like
Yeah.
this, like that. So I say again, if you could repeat, You were talking like off the cuff as a person, like, bam, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Bam, that's perfect.
I
Like,
noticed
what
that-
did you see in your gut? What the hell's going on?
Yeah.
The overall feeling.
Overall feeling is that something was wrong with this relationship, and she did not like respect you fully, and it was like very difficult for me to watch this kind of like behavior and relationship problems. And lately it was like really, really bad, and you have like disagreements a few days ago, really loud for a long time, hours, and I think since you are not well, she should have more consideration, and if she sees any conversation going the wrong way, she should just stop, and she should not continue to make more problems.
You mean it's not good to provoke people?
Yeah,
We're gonna return to that point very soon. I want you to write down the note. Let's pause for a sec.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember what we were just saying.
Yeah, we were
every
talking-
new second is like a new
Yeah,
second.
I was talking about
like
the girlfriend,
Alzheimer's.
and I said that it's not good for the girl, for anyone actually, to provoke another person. If you are in the relationship, you try to treat the relationship nice and smooth, Even if someone is wrong or says something offensive, you just try to not to go on and on and on and argue for hours. It makes no sense to me.
You mean that's obstinate?
Yeah.
You mean that doing something like this is
It's
insolent? Have you heard that word, insolent?
Not really.
That's a good word. Let me show it to you right now. Okay, what does it say from the dictionary?
You cannot read no glasses. You have to read it out.
Okay.
Read it loud.
Insolent.
Insolent. Showing a rude and arrogant lack of respect.
Oh, insolent. Okay.
Okay?
That's what you meant. Okay. So it's not right to do this.
It's not right. The most important part of the Bible, as I was saying earlier, step 1, if your brother wrongs you, rebuke him between you and him privately. Step 2, if your brother if your brother hears you or your sister, whoever it is, your societal assembly, co-religious, co-civilization, society member, countryman, the person you form a greater societal bond with. We live together. All of us out here in the world, we live together. You understand?
Yes.
If that person hears you after they've wronged you and you bring it to their attention, you bring them notice, that is to say you've charged them with wrongdoing, and they admit that they are guilty, that means they took the plea deal because they know what's good. And it's to take responsibility and say, yes, you're right, I'm sorry, I wasn't considerate. I forgot to hold open the door for you, and maybe that's what I owed in that situation.
Yeah.
And it didn't look right because your mother was with you and your wife, and it made you look like somebody I didn't care about. You see? Everything is about honoring your fellow person. Everything. I was talking to Josiah on the phone recently. I had another good talk with him, my good friend. Genius. Josiah's, if I could rank everybody who I've ever known, him, close to age with me, he's the closest human being who's at my level, who's on that level without any freak accidents and chemicals and comas.
Yeah,
Okay?
He's a really nice guy.
He's
I don't know
one
him,
of the
but
absolute
he's like,
smartest people I've ever seen. He's the closest thing to me that I've ever seen.
like a brother.
Yeah. When me and him talk, it's like two clones talking to each other. It's really crazy, actually. But I'm telling him, I'm saying, listen, you think the 10 Commandments are about worshiping God? God is the supra essence of what we are. Obviously, you're not sinning against God in the same way that there's some kind of heavenly transaction that you're crossing that's isolated from the effect you're having on other people around you. You see? Everything, therefore, comes when you're crossing other people around you. Even the commandment of the Sabbath. Because this one's the most, like, far gone of all in terms of what's the effect on other people. That's a commandment, but if you look at it like mechanically or like literally, it doesn't seem to fit. All these others are about doing good things, and then this one tells you some rule to follow about Sundays or Saturdays. What do you mean you're not allowed to work? You know? And then when you do work on Saturday, you're sinning against God? What does that make sense? Yeah, if you think about it that way, it doesn't make sense because your neurons aren't working correctly. What's really going on? So you have a duty to work because you have a duty to produce that which sustains your family. Yeah. And every single waking minute and working minute, especially back then, had to be devoted to hard work. And yet, if you did work 7 days a week, you are a slave. Yeah. That's indignifying to yourself, but furthermore, it robs the people you love of their favorite person, which is you. Yeah. So what are Saturdays supposed to be spent for, or Sundays if you're a Christian? It's supposed to be with the people you love, to bond with them.
And also you should go to church.
Right,
pray,
of course, but today people go to church, but it's not a joint effort. And then people go home and they're not even with their families.
Yeah, that's true.
The point is that if you're not stopping work so that everybody's getting along together on the same program, which is we're all chilling with each other and hanging out because we love each other, if, Marvin's the only one in our town who is ignoring us because he's off in the thing working off by himself and he's got his back turned towards us and it's the Sabbath, isn't that an offense to all of us? Yeah. See? Everything is about the dignity of man and preserving it. That's morality. That's religion. They're one and the same thing. Rebuke. When someone wrongs you, that wronging is the only thing that's standing in between hell and heaven being on this earth. Because if you wanted to really create a utopia, like I was telling my friend, you create a utopia by entering into a social contract where you promise to treat everybody like they're Princess Diana and like they're Abraham Lincoln.
That would be nice.
Do you see that?
Yeah.
Because if every person in the group swears to do this, what's the concomitant benefit or corresponding benefit that every member of that society warrants and gains immediately? Everybody gets treated like they're Princess Diana and like they're Abraham Lincoln for your whole life every day.
That would be so good.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it doesn't come for free. Yeah. You want to be treated like that because that's good for your essence. Oh, for sure it is. But you can't sustain that if you're only taking that but never giving that. So God's will is that you enter into a social contract or construct in which everybody's outputting it faithfully all the time to everybody else around you. And when you all do that in agreement together, you all win. Because you're all treated like kings and queens every day. That's God's happiest manifestation. You understand?
Yes.
So what's the first transgression against that? Is the first time somebody indignifies somebody else. That's the original sin of the moment. You understand? And that comes in many forms. You could be on the bus or the train and some piece of, you know what? Oh, but we're not supposed to pass judgment on other people, right? Yeah. We're going to get that cleared up too, because that's another misunderstanding. Of course you are to pass judgment on people. Only the people who have wronged you directly, because those are the only ones you have jurisdiction over. Don't judge your neighbors across the street when they fight each other. That doesn't involve you. It won't involve you until they proceed from step 1, rebuke, to step 2, get a witness. If someone's rebuked but they say, no, I didn't wrong you, you wronged me. That's called gaslighting. Everybody does it in self-defense, and you don't even realize you're doing it when you're doing it. You believe your own lie. Your subconscious mind created it to shield your ego. That's why God says you get a witness next. When you get the witness has clear eyes and can see, you're insane, Betty. Obviously you're wrong. Then the fucking palpitations start. Oh my God, now I do have the shame flooding my face. It wasn't flooding before. When your husband of 20 years was telling you what the hell you did wrong. You just didn't feel like believing it anymore. Huh? But when the witness comes in and you still don't repent, then step 3 is tell everybody. Publicize. You understand? And that parallels the way a civil court, for example, will work. The civil court, you come in, you argue, you get a witness. The court serves as in essence, as a witness. A determination is made. And once it's made, that's judgment. And then what happens to the judgment? It's put on the judgment rolls. It's public now. And anyone in the public has the right to see what that dispute was about. Even if it was about some case where the details were initially private and some things were sealed. Yeah, but at the end, who was wrong will be made known in light for all to see. If that person had the opportunity to withdraw, to settle privately, to say, I admit, you deprived us of the correct yielding. You were to bend the knee, but you refused to. Now you'll be shown in front of everybody that you're the piece of crap. Now we can judge you. We're supposed to. And once we all hear what you actually did, and then you don't hear us, the final step, step 4, is let the person be as a tax collector, as heathen to you. What does that mean? They were Jewish. Heathen is anybody who's not Jewish. That's the Gentiles, the Goyim. You understand?
Yeah.
You don't touch them. You don't talk to them. You don't let them touch you or talk to you. Even Christ, when he preached, guess what? That's a Jewish God they worship at church. You don't understand that? Be clear. While he was alive and preaching, he would always instruct his disciples very clearly. Teach all the people. Teach all the people. All our people, of course. You don't go teach the Goyim. Very simple. Don't cross across the lines. Why? Because you're transgressing upon other people's value sets. Maybe we have it perfect, but they don't. And furthermore, who are you to bring into awareness the fact that their thinking is not perfect? Where their own value systems at the most fundamental level are different from yours. They're barbarians. There's something else out of our structure. Where they sacrifice their babies and steal from each other, and the more you steal, the higher honored you are. See, that's all sickness. It wouldn't even do good to go knock on their door. You don't go knock on their door. So who are you allowed to have societal intercourse with or freedom of interaction with? Only people who have the same value set as you do. Because if in one example, an Islamic society is made up full of men, they're all in agreement, all the men and all the women, yeah, of course you can lightly beat your wife if she mouths off to you disrespectfully. Duh! Are you fucking stupid? Are you fucking idiots? You understand?
Yes.
And then at the other far end of the spectrum, you have the most liberalized, in the most modern progressive realms, going, all men should be castrated and it's wrong if you're not killing yourselves now. Okay? Right. And so, not holding that view in that circle is a transgression of the ideology of that circle. Now, furthermore, you say apples and oranges. Let's say, no, there is a way to objectively see which one falls to the objective high honoring and truth of the real universe. Some are objectively farther away from that light than others. It's true. That's a whole separate series, but I'll summarize it like this. Dignity. If you're causing someone to feel indignified, but rightfully so, you're transgressing against them. So why can't two people make a life together if they don't share the same value set? Because it could be of really subtle differences. You could have a husband who says, it's offensive to me when my wife doesn't cook me a nice meal that's not burnt. And the wife says, I don't have to do anything for you. You man, I don't have to do anything for you. Right. They'll never work. Because they might agree that stealing is bad, killing is bad, lying is bad. Ooh, and almost everybody's a liar today. And they even agree, both, lying is bad. We'd never lie to each other, honey. We'd never lie to each other, my baby. But as soon as you find the first split hair, it's insulting to me that you haven't cooked me a nice meal. It's insulting to me that you want one. You're done. One of them has to realize they're the one and only one who's making the genuine insult, and that the other one was actually right. If they can't realize, you're commanded by God to separate. That's called being ostracized. Which you cannot do, by the way, unless you have the collective agreement of everybody around you. Why? Because you don't know if you're the one who's right or you're the one who's crazy. You never know until you have the whole of people around you affirming. You never skip to step 4 if you haven't gone over steps 2 and 3. Jesus, you take this recording you played in church every day, the whole world would be saved. No one gets this. This is the material from which your success and preservation is built. Okay, I had enough to say about this in this direction. I think you understand. We're going to go now to the material issues in my own relationship.
Okay.
Because I could keep going for 12 hours straight, no breaks at all.
I know.
Easily. For 12 days in a row. It's insane. All I do is channel. Now, could you imagine having that guy as your boyfriend?
Oh my God.
It's part the best thing ever, part craziness.
Yeah.
Practically
You get a
speaking.
lot
I
of
understand
information, but drives you nuts because too much.
It drives you nuts if it's too much, but if it's not too much, and by the way, who's a good partner for such a person? A girl where that doesn't happen to be too much for her. She just eats it up and loves it.
Yes.
Okay? Sarah was like that. She's very fitting for me in that way. I don't have anything bad to say yet. Only to build the foundation, and then the first floor, second floor, third floor can my pyramid be built as to how it is that certain people have done wrong is my moral obligation to rebuke those who do wrong. God tells you if you allow someone to do something wrong, you receive a transgression from someone else and you fail to rebuke that person for what they did, save in the case of that they're evil or they're an outside group, which is different rules apply when you're if it's war, it's war. There's different karmic ties. It takes a lot of time to explain the intricacies, and they're very important. They're not, subtle or not important. They're very important distinctions, but they're very hard to explain if you don't have a basis yet to understand. Most things I say to people, they tell me it's always like the first time they've heard anything like this. Yeah. But the important thing to understand is this, and this is not the first time anyone's heard. People understand this. If you don't rebuke the person correctly, you share in the sin of guilt, in the guilt of sin, rather. That karma, the bad that they did, you share it now. It staples to your aura, so to speak, and then that invites the new demon in the form of more abuse to come in the same way. Whether it's from the same person or someone else, because it just reprograms your frequency, and you begin to act as a magnetic field for more of the same, okay? One person robbed you last week. If you just sat there and loved it, there's a way to do it actually. If it's evil or not evil, if someone's making a mistake, that's when you really are supposed to rebuke. Your job of love to someone who's your brother or sister is to teach them. You have to. You will be cursed, in effect, if you don't stop and say, hey, this was not right. You will have to. If you don't, bad things will happen to you. in this world. That's just the way it is. So, have you seen me act this way in my own life? Every time someone does something that's not correct, and in this crazy world today with all the vaccines going into people's brains, taking over, it's like zombie land. Yeah, that's right, and all the fluoride in the water since the 40s. Okay, we know about all these things. It's not a joke. I think everybody's so different the last 80 years. More different now than we've ever been prior. It's not an accident, it's not a coincidence. The first major change of evolution in humanity was when we started coming into direct contact with metal ores in the ground. No one will tell you this in school. You've never heard this anywhere except for me. I'm the first one telling you. When man started digging up metal from the ground, that's when man began to change. Why? Because metal is one molecule. It comes in right through your skin. That's why your fingers smell after you handle your keys. Okay? When they start refining, melting down, using fire and all that to process metal, and then using metal for weaponry and for shields, which make contact with your skin all day, both the men and the women handling it receive long-term, permanent changes in their mineral constitution. That changes the way your brain works because the metal has conductive properties. It enhances the speed at which your flesh conducts electricity. When that happens, you get an artificial boost in brain power. That's what made man rise above the animals. Okay? I explained this to a few people around me in my life. This is important. This is the number one thing that happened first. And then every other domino that happened after that was just a natural consequence that came after that. Okay? And then we started this artificially enhanced uprising in intellect. It enhances the channeling of spirit in some ways, but there's also a compensatory sacrifice that's made too, and people lose vision, in a sense. Well, we've hit our peak, we've gone past it, things are going downhill now societally. So what do we do then? This is still recording, yeah? So what do we do then? We have to rebuke. If there's more offenses going on all around you, it only makes our jobs that much harder. But it's a blessing that you do it right. Because when you do your job correctly, it is a blessing that offenses are done to you. Why? Because it's assumed you rebuke them. And why is it a blessing when offenses are rebuked? Because you're cleaning up the mess of this world. When someone spills up milk, hey, we're all getting together and we're going to clean it up together, right? That's right. When someone is a sinner, God doesn't trust you. What does that mean? It means you might live your life the way you want it. That's Satan. God says, be my slave. You see? Submit. Satan doesn't want you to submit in the same sense. He's more empowering, you see. And we could get into Luciferian doctrine another time, which is the exact inversion. It's the story about how God was actually keeping Adam and Eve as prisoners in the Garden of Eden, and how Lucifer was the kind one who set them free from the evil God who was keeping them as his prisoner. Everything is, you see? Right. Okay? Let's get back on track. Rebuke is the key thing, and finally, after how long has this been now? An hour introduction, we're going to get into the real things. Who did what, why it's wrong, and trust me, when you have a 1,000,000 voltage power resolution field like I do when analyzing things, it's hopeless. You will just sit there and be stunned at how right I am. But I don't have to talk like this. You'll just see it. And I expect apologies from every damn direction that they're owed to me from. Take a short break.
Okay.
And what were you saying? We're on pause. Just took a brief break here. We're still here. I'm losing it. I'm having a hard time. So you hear me speaking now?
Yeah.
Easy, right?
Yeah.
How many times have you seen me all of a sudden I can't speak?
Yeah,
and I'm stunned and I can't talk.
Times.
Okay?
How are you feeling now? You okay?
I don't know. Show me some fingers. How many? And that was my best attempt to tell you how many fingers you were holding up there. That makes sense? Is this a sick person?
Sick.
Spiritually enlightened, physically sick.
Yeah.
Deal with it. I can't walk sometimes. I have neurological problems. That only got that much worse when a big hole in the back of my fucking mouth opened up. I'm living with it, never diagnosed. Waiting 6 months to get an MRI for it. Fighting with MRIs, radiologists, and doctors how to conduct the test. No one listens, and they don't know to what ends their insolence drives things too. The man thinks he's so smart. That's the problem. The test's not going to work the way you will think it work. It's going to work the way I told you it's going to work. And the minute you humble yourself, rip up your medical degree, slam yourself onto the ground and crawl on your belly saying, I know nothing, that's when you have a hope of becoming enlightened. Every single radiologist I talk to, with these Lenox Hill and these other people,
They just didn't listen.
unbelievable, yeah. Just rewriting reality to the way you think it goes. Oh, Lord. Just no man suffers by your... as a consequence of the fucking arrogance. What actually happens is if you do run a Cine program properly in live time, which allows T2 high signal fluids to be shown, you'll see that I'm going to have pineapple juice effusing directly into my cranial cavity, lovingly caressing around my right brain hemisphere, the way I've been telling you it's been happening. But am I making that up? No. You mean when Sarah was here and she sees me say this and I'm drinking hot tea, and hot tea is pooling up, going into my brain, and then it's burning behind my eyeball, because that's where it pooled up to, and I'm going, it's burning behind my eye. And then she says, because she's heard only so much of this, so she gets it, and yet she gets it only because I've told her, not because she's experiencing the truth for herself. Well, isn't life funny? Because she's in front of me, she says, she thinks automatically, intuitively, well, let me figure out if that's true. I could feel that maybe, couldn't I? And then I say, yeah, it's burning my half of my face here and all this eye and the tissue by this eye. It's not the other eye. There's a membrane that separates the two brain halves. It's only one half that seems to be infiltrated. She goes to the eye I'm referring to, touches it. She's like, what the fuck? It's hot. It's hot like that glass was when I handed it to you. I said, oh yeah, exactly. Get it now. And it dawned on her like, whoa, this is real. You get it. Touches the other eye cold, other eye hot. Can't fake that. Did I have a fucking thermal pack injector that I was running behind a curtain hiding to set this up? That I installed in my brain? You can't explain it, you losers. You are losers because when I tell you what happens in the fucking depths of your offices, you say, oh, well, poor victims of vaccines, they have to keep up the flu shots every year, so it dumbs them down over the course of years. So sad to see. I see the light going out of their eyes. The most affected humans I ever see are nurses. All the light is gone from their eyes in New York State, but not in other states where they don't enforce the thing as much. It's very interesting. Yeah. It's sad, actually. I feel like crying when I think about it too much. Not too much. It's not too much. We should think about it, because that's what's happening around us. You're hurting people. Satan's running this whole show. Evil people who know it's hurting people are the ones at the top administering these programs. They don't love you. Rebuke them. But they tell me, oh, I'm sure that if it was true, you'd have been dead already. I probably would have also believed the same thing had it not been for the fact that I'm not. But is it an illusion? Because after the hot tea experiment, next comes the ice cream experiment. You see, I'll take a bunch of ice cream, swallow it, and then when I feel it going through the hole and pooling up in my brain, the first thing that happens is that the top of your skull gets much heavier. So there's something you can't fake. Because if your skull gets packed in with extra fluid and weight, it's like someone strapped like a wrestling helmet to your head with a plate loaded on top, which your neck and all your other proprioceptive mechanisms can feel. So it would be the same as if I injected you with volume directly into your cranium with a big thing right into your skull. When you stand up, you would feel two things: more pressure, number one, and heavier head at the top, number two. But not there only. See, ice cream's cold. So when the ice cream goes into your brain, what's the first thing that happens? Well, if you're a normal person like them, you'd probably go unconscious and have real problems. But because my GABA B's upregulated, guess what? I can't lose consciousness in the same way. In fact, I don't even inflame. But you see, when radiologists are brainwashed to worship the manifestation of inflammation as the indicator of pathology, that when you find the unicorn or the medical zebra who can't inflame, you give false negatives. Learn, sheep. I love blowing your minds. It's fucking the best. I fucking feel so great when I lord them with their stupidity. I don't have to do any of the work. I just stand next to you and you just go, blah, blah, blah. It's fucking wild. Pity is all I have for you humans. Yeah, it is ice cream in my head. Because when I take control subjects like you, Sarah, my friends, and anybody else and put them on the thermal camera, you show many instances of what a control subject looks like. And then Sarah takes the thermal camera, and then when I go, yeah, it's freezing my scalp right over here, and I point at it with the finger, which is on the top of my head, that's the same spot that starts turning real dark blue, freezing cold on the thermal camera, which is objective fucking testing. Let's not mention the soda bubbles that come out from my eye after I drink carbonated drinks, which only happens when I put my head lying back so that my eyes are face up, because air rises. You'll watch bubbles coming up from under my eyelid. You get it yet? You idiot doctors? But I don't go to the hospital because I know what mistakes you're capable of making. You've made them to me before. You're incompetent is the reason you're not trusted. Venting people and giving them remdesivir until they die. And y'all still haven't figured it out? Only a few of you have. Idiots. But when the plan is to make sure that for the preceding 10 years everyone's getting flu shots every year, you're guaranteeing that they can't do what's called correct central coherence or inference stacking. Okay? Cue my favorite scene from Limitless, where they do a good job showing what it is to see low-level hints and correctly inference ladder higher inferences that to an inept person look like schizophrenia, but to a correctly seeing person is the actual correct high truth on tall supported structures that you don't have access to mentally. So what am I saying by all this? I'm saying that Sarah has seen a lot. Now we're going to go into this story. Okay? I met this girl maybe two and a half years ago, something like this, at a party. You understand? We're going to tell the whole story from the beginning. Met her at a party. She was very nice to me. In the future, when we would talk here, I say, oh, my sweetheart, how did I find you, And she would say, oh, I found you. Very cute, right?
Aww.
Very cute. Well, she found me all right. And yet, while I was busy talking to another person at the party, who sort of was a friend who I knew from a prior party, as much as she liked me, right in front of me, she starts talking to another guy, and then like 10 seconds later ends up getting into a cab with him and going off to his home.
Really?
Yeah. And there's more details I could say about that, but it would be gossiping if I did, insofar as it's not strictly relevant to her character. I'm just telling you that it was not a good thing to see. And I'm omitting more details. Because I'm not about taking revenge. I'm not about saying things that don't need to be strictly said. I'm saying that just that alone, that fact alone is all I need to know to understand that some serious offense took place. I had her phone number from that party. I didn't write to her or talk to her for a year. Just on seeing that alone. That you get blacklisted in a normal man's mind permanently.
Yep.
If you show something like this. Okay? There's more that makes even more relevancy to the situation. For her own dignity, I won't even say it. But about a year later, I'm scrolling through the list. What girls could we talk to that I remember from my past that I could say hello to again? And her name came up, and I said, "Oh, I remember that one. The one who ran off with the other guy under even less good circumstances than you would think from even just what I said so far." I nevertheless, at that moment, I said, well, that was a year ago. Let me be merciful or understanding enough that I'm going to, which is almost insane on my part, admittedly. So I'm putting everything out here in regards to that. And I just put that to the side and just say, hey, how are you? So, hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? She comes into my life. But of course, this is just the first, times of getting to know anybody. I'm also briefly seeing other people at the same time, here or there, as I'm dating actively. See, I'm not a married guy. No, so I'm courting multiple individuals. You understand? So I'm courting multiple individuals, but of course, as time goes on, when certain people fall out of favor, as other people grow towards your favor in your heart, what do? Doesn't one naturally simply turn their courtship attention to the one and begin to exclude others naturally? There's not a rule you're exclusive or you're not exclusive. Real exclusivity rule doesn't take effect until there's a ring on somebody's finger. We know that much. Okay? That's also why, just to note, I don't believe in this boyfriend-girlfriend stuff. That's one thing I dropped as a paradigm. After I came out of my coma, I realized there's no such thing as boyfriend or girlfriend. That's like trying to do a marriage light You want the commitments without the benefits, or you want you want to torture yourselves without, it doesn't make sense. I tell people, I say, I don't do boyfriend, girlfriend. If we propose to each other, that means we're the one. If we're not the one, we're always in, what do I say? I call it courtship. We're always courting. You see? I talk to other guys, I say, dude, you're brilliant. But it's not brilliant. It's just, why would you do anything that feels or seems unnatural? It's only out of fear. Please be with me, but promise you won't be with anybody else. It's like married before married. What is that? That's a cult. Only the cult of our current society has ever formed that. That's not real. So I was seeing somebody before. There's a little story about them, but they fell out of favor. They faded out of the picture. And at the same time, the other person was fading out of the picture. Sarah was growing in her heart. You understand? Mm-hmm. And filling up the space that the other person was being eclipsed by. So after about maybe 2 months or so is when it became apparent. Like, this Sarah could be the one that is like my main courting person now. How else to say
Everyone
it, right?
else was
my main courting person.
allowed.
Okay? And what was beautiful about that relation, and I don't say relationship, but you understand what I mean. You know, our relating during our time together. Is that she understood what I was going through, but she didn't wince even once. It didn't affect her. She wasn't made to feel any bad way about it. Okay, we're talking about the fact that I'll stop being able to walk in the middle of the street randomly. Okay, I have to explain to her all these intricate stories like, I modulated my central nervous system so it doesn't work correctly and all these other things. Every single fiber of her being was simply, it doesn't matter to me. I care about you. And every time I ever lost my balance, she was there perfect, because she's so short, she's the perfect size to be right there. A taller person couldn't support me as good as she could, and it just was perfect in that way. It worked. Okay? She would carry me when I couldn't walk, and it worked, and I only had gratitude in my heart. I said, that's a real woman right there. That's a real woman. Because that's a woman who does what she wants to do. That's good. It comes from her heart. It comes as a grace. She doesn't owe it, but she gives it freely because she wants to give it to you. You see? That's the real beauty. So I knew from there, I said, that this person is worth me spending my time with. For sure. We naturally drew to each other. We had similar personality. And, eventually later on you met her. And how did you feel about that when you saw me and her interact? How did you feel about those interactions?
They were okay. We were very nice to each other. Very close. Always walking together. It was like a good interaction.
So things get interesting. Things are good. Katya from Russia comes over, remember, just after the New Year in January. She was here. So now, I had Katya living with me, and she came also to be a helper to me, but not in a girlfriend-like capacity. I didn't have a romantic interest with her. So she was like a second Sarah, who was there as like a strictly support or friend platonic role, and then I had Sarah, who would be here, at least 3 nights a week on average, sometimes even 4 nights a week, regularly. I had good support in my life at this time. So they drew closer to me. Eventually, Kat had a little problem and we went our separate ways. I didn't do anything wrong, but she just, I don't know, she had some lovers she wanted to go chase here in New York, and she just did her own thing. Yeah, but not in a nice way. And always I say, when she came, she literally came, it was like helper and also my student. Because literally, my life literally is like a Stephen Hawking type life. Like, I'm brilliant in the way that I am. People look up to me, I'm giving insights, but I can't move my body. So I need sometimes help. People got to help me get dressed. You understand?
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, keep in mind what I just said. That'll come in relevant for later. So this is early January 2021. All that's going good. Eventually, I can't remember what was it, February or March, something like this. February. Some things happen. I'm trying to recall so that there's fair analysis on what's going on. Okay? Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, around that time, turn of the year, like going into December, January, February, was this whole problem where, you know. Well, see, I'm privileged to talk about it insofar as the chain of offenses was never cleaned up by her. I always make it clear. Well, how do the rules go? If you don't make up but you turn bad, you give the person the privilege to talk about what you've done. You see? I owe the courtesy of privacy to you, but you waive it when you go rogue. You understand? Because it shows I don't care to clean up the debts that I incurred. That everyone who has that has the right to publicize the story. That's the karmic rule. And you never do if it's not that way. So it's very strict. It is black and white. If you see gray, it's only because your vision isn't clear and you don't have enough visual receptor density. Okay? You stand far enough from a screen that has only black and white pixels interlaced, you will see gray. You're blind. Upregulate your resolution. You will see black and white very clearly. Okay? She was involved with work that I didn't like her doing. Okay? I'm not calling her a prostitute, but I'm saying she was doing work that I didn't like her doing. So, obviously, if you're going to draw closer to me, it comes to a point where if you genuinely want to carry on a courtship where you're really becoming devoted to a person, there's certain kinds of things that I wouldn't want a person who I'm associated with to do. A whole host of things in life, actually. Many things a person would be free to do in their single life that they're no longer as free to do when you're committing to someone. You understand?
Yeah.
So whatever that thing was, I said it's gotta be changed, and then if you decide to do that, I could surely bond and grow with you more. And if not, then you've just hit the glass ceiling here, and we'll never get anywhere beyond here. And probably it'll just reverse because you're showing that you can't. Yeah, very clear. Okay? Well, it ends up that within a month or two time, it ends up she was lying to me. And she was doing the same work that I told her I didn't want her to do. What was this work? I don't know. Ask her. Understand? Because it's indignifying, number one. Number two, to be lied to about it. Okay, sure, I'll change it around. And then lies, only lies. And then when I confront them with the lie, because I know everything. Because when you're GABA B upregulated, you see the lies. So I saw the lies and I said, I'm not going to confront her until she herself manifests something that she can't hide anymore about how she's lying. So I was just watching her lie. Because it'd be clear that she's lying. And then once it's clear objectively, I'll say, okay, you see this and this and this? That's a lie. And she had no ability to cover it the way she would have just pretended it's not true. And then anyone could come across and say, well, calling me a liar is indignifying to me. You see? So in life, you have to be careful with your accusations. But of course I'm correct, because I could see everything that's happening. Which is really disgusting. To be lying to somebody. To be lying to somebody.
So what
about
kind of work was it? Like something you did not approve, right?
Yeah. Well.
That's good enough.
Good enough. Okay. I'm not going to be accused of gossiping about people. So I'm going to cover only exactly whatever is strictly relevant to my experience of a person, such that another person can understand the semblance of what is happening, for the purpose of moral evaluation as to whether or not I was treated well or not treated well. So you know enough. You don't have to know more. And you want to go ask her, you could go ask her. If she feels like telling you, she'll tell you. Of course, I bet it naturally does raise a million questions. Yeah, that's what happens when you don't live life correctly. You're going to end up in a position where everybody has natural questions that cause to be infiltrated into the sphere all around you. And I gave every consideration of privacy and dignity until someone just a year later defaults and reneges on the chain of defaults that they've been showing, where it's like a long debtor who just refinances a million times and still never pays the. That's what it's like dealing with her. You see what I'm saying? No, I need to refinance again. But you haven't paid a single month. But you need to refinance again and restructure the deal 30 times over. You only racked up more debt by doing that, and then later you finally topple over completely and say, "No, fuck you, I don't care." Okay, if you said that in the beginning, there would have been less damage done.
Yeah.
Like, you fucking selfish piece of crap. You see that? I say, I'm absolutely not going to tolerate a person who's lying to me in my life. Now, this is important because this is the first major rebuke that she got from me, of many more that came, and this is important. Even the fact that happened is also important because it, in hindsight, affects the validity of her initial atonement and repentance. When you get rebuked and you realize you fucked up, what are the 3 steps to get forgiveness? Number 1, repentance. You have to be sorry. A genuine repentance is genuinely being sorry. But that is made manifest in really 2 steps to merit the 3rd, which is forgiveness. Step 1 is repentance. It's to say you're sorry and really mean it. You have to profess it and declare it. The 2nd step is atonement. And this is what everybody messes up and forgot about in life, in this world today. People say, I'm sorry. All right. You can't get forgiven if you haven't atoned for the debt of the impact that you created. The impact is the degree of psychological insult and the degree of rift in the interpersonal relationship between the 2 people. Okay? If it's a matter of money, so for example, in a strict, logical, mechanical manner, you see, hey, I stole $200 from you. Okay, what's atonement? I have to work back $200 and pay it back to you, whatever it takes. If it takes me 3 years of, hard work in the labor camps, or it takes me 2 seconds to make up the $200. For one person it's 2 seconds, for another person it's 3 years of brutal labor. It doesn't matter. I owe $200, and that's the value of the atonement that has to be made. You understand? For interpersonal relationships, it's that too. It's material things too. So if you damage my house, you have to fix my house, number one. But then number two, the real damage is in the interpersonal relationship. Do I trust the person again? Well, see, you showed up as a liar. Not only as a liar, but when I confront you and tell you you're lying, you deny that you're lying and put more lies on top. Which is very serious. Lying about the kind of work you're doing, which I knew about before and told you not to do. Now, I'm getting cut again in my neurology. Pause it for now. No, teraz dobrze. What was I saying? I can't even remember what I was saying.
So you were talking about her job, you did not approve about whatever she was doing, and she was keeping it secret or something, right?
That's right.
And she was
That's right. She gave me a word that she would not do the thing anymore.
Yeah.
And instead of committing to that, her actual private decision was, well, I'm just going to keep doing it, and I will lie to him now about where I'm going and what I'm doing. How do you like that? She gave fake texts about, I'm here now, I'm there now, when actually is not. Okay? She made up a fake job that she was going to. Yeah, it's even right. It's very bold, okay? Because when you're living a double life, it gets a little weird.
Yes, it does.
Okay? It gets even better than that.
What happened?
Because when she met me, she also initially hid from me the fact that she had a lesbian lover on the side.
Are you kidding? Really?
This is your first time hearing about this.
Lesbian lover. Oh my god.
Okay, and then eventually it was just known. Okay? And I just said, right, and I have a lot that God tests me with in this life, okay? You know, do you put up with shit, or do you, let someone shit around in the sandbox a little bit with your supervision till they learn how to clean up a little better in their karma? You see?
Yeah.
So, I had to think about it, and then I said to myself, well, it's almost some mental gymnastics you have to do to arrive at some of these decisions that I make, but boy, are they interesting. Okay? It's funny, but it's really not funny.
It's not funny. It's funny, but it's not right.
All right? You didn't see that one coming, did you?
No, never in a million years.
Well, then you're not paying close enough attention.
Okay.
You see? That's how life is.
I don't know much. I was blind.
But it's funny, but the same second I ever saw her, I knew that about her. Because, again, I see everything. I read everything. I saw her, I said, boom, and I just got her scanned. It takes 1 millisecond, and I know your entire life. More or less. And what you're all about, and what your frequency is. Okay? But she said it, and I said, well, let me think about this. I go back, I say, okay. Well, first of all, she's been seeing that woman longer than she's been seeing me. So really, that person is grandfathered in before, I'm the new guy.
The new guy on the street.
I'm the new one, right? I'm the one that the other woman's not happy about.
It's like a comedy.
I mean, to put a little comedy into a otherwise fraud situation. Make no mistake about it. Today's the first day I'm calm enough to speak like this. I was in basically a freaking kind of fight or flight mode for 3 days straight, pacing my apartment, almost half ready to kill. And I had to let the coffee set out of my system before I could return to a neutral enough state to just be the thing I am. Yeah. After the indignation I suffered in my own house given to me by any guest of mine in my life. I say, well, number one, who am I to judge if the other person's grandfathered in? Although I would judge if it were a man.
Which one is worse?
Because I would, right, which one is worse? I don't even know. But if you really think about it and you had to give it a fair hearing and really think, well, you would figure and say, well, you got to think back to the ancient Chinese civilization from 5,000 years ago. Because in all of the ancient traditions, you have to realize this specific distinction. This is very important. Homosexuality was seen as improper and corrupt in that it was the mixing of two, yin and yang, right? It says the mixing of two yang elements, and that is like it's an aberration. It doesn't fit. It's just off in this world. It just goes against the structure. Okay, whether or not we believe that to be true today. Hey, look, I don't want to offend anybody, all right? This is what they said, I'm telling you. Okay, but they weren't fluoridated in the pineal gland, so maybe they had better insight than we do today. Food for thought. But they realized something else. This is interesting, and today no one makes this distinction because today we have the artificial conflation of holding everything to be equal. They interestingly held that gayness is not held equivalent to lesbianism. And it's interesting because if you go out and talk to regular girls and guys who are straight on the street, in the sorority clubs or college or whatever it is, okay? All right, a guy has never kissed another guy unless he's gay, right? So the thought will naturally make like a revulsion in the guy, like that's disgusting, but by instinct for that wiring, okay? Which is considered the typical or normal wiring. But apparently, at least in this age today, every single straight girl will readily tell you, no, I'm completely straight. Oh, no, yeah, I've kissed a girl before. Of course, every girl has. It's no problem. Okay? And this truth that we experience today matches the truth from 5,000 years ago. When they were in the yin and the yang, and the Chinese are the acupuncture meridians, and you studied this. You're a licensed acupuncturist. You know what I'm talking about. They said this. They said, men and men together, that was seen as an aberration. But women in the same sphere together, they said we have no jurisdiction to pass judgment on that. And it's not because it's yin with yin, it's a different energetic product. And because that energetic product is not seen as corrupting as the yang with yang, they say you just let it be. And that was the formula. And I consider that, and I consider this today, and I said, well, I'm a guy. My business is that whether or not other guys are in our life. You see? So for me to be threatened by a girl, it's almost immature of me. So, you look up and say, okay, God, as my father once told me, roll with the punches. All right, we'll take it with amusement and just see what happens. I don't know. This is getting in, whatever. But, on the basis of those two things and other considerations, I said, you know what? I don't actively support it, but kind of like a court that doesn't like the fact that you murdered someone in Italy. You also can't be tried here in this court for it. Yeah, it's crime, but they don't have jurisdiction, so they'll say, yeah, but we decline to have jurisdiction. We can't have jurisdiction. I decided to hold a similar holding. I said, well, I'm just going to say I don't love it, and, you should change it around if you desire to make things better here. I promise you that the development here is going to be stifled to the degree it is if you keep playing that, because now you're messing with people's heads and hearts. So I said very clearly, for sure, as a natural organic consequence, you're going to have a hard time here growing more for the future if you maintain that. Okay. Right. I don't condone it. I don't want to know about it, but I do want to make sure nothing wrong is happening. But, and I just said, I advise you to clear that out of your life. As the most mature thing I could possibly think of saying to her. Right? And a damn man deserves credit for that, I think. Half of men easily would be like just screw this. Nah, I don't love it anymore. Maybe half men would say, oh, bring her also. We'll all have fun. I used to be like that before. You understand? But but this was not right. And I said, look, God will run this through hopefully correctly. Okay. What happens next? And Katya was in and out at this time from the house. She was, sowing some seeds somewhere else, I think. It was a little weird, actually. Oh, yeah, that's right. So first the lesbian thing, we knew about this. And then came this lying thing. Now, keep in mind, if someone isn't fully happy with you, what's your job? What do you owe that person to be extra good? I told you about repentance and atonement. What does this mean? Repentance is saying you're sorry. Atonement is acting sorry. In the traditional Hebrew, you're making a teshuvah. You're making the atonement. You have to pay. This means you're not on the equal standing in society. If you've done wrong, and it's found that you did wrong, or you properly admit, which is good for your karma, that you did do the wrong, for a time you're now lowered. You live on your knees. You're not on your feet. You live on your knees, and especially to the person who you wronged, because that's the person you're making up to. And if you make up long enough, well enough, eventually that person extends you the hand and says, you've paid enough, get up off of your feet, you're off of your knees, you're better than this, and you're forgiven. Because you've shown that I could trust you again, or that you have done well. You've fixed the mistake of the transgression, and you worked on it so long and hard that it made it so that the thing became water under the bridge, and it just passed, and it's not affecting us anymore in the practical sense. You see, if you lie about something so serious, how easy is it to trust that person again?
Not easy.
No. I said, as a result of these lies, I don't accept these lies. I am no longer seeing you for the time being, and in my head I said 90% chance I will never see you again. And if you're somehow atoning so amazingly that I believe that that you can make up for it, then maybe. You can't close the door permanently, because God even says you have to be willing to forgive. Key distinction. He doesn't command you to forgive automatically all sins. No, repentance has to happen first. And when repentance and atonement take place fully, then you are obligated to forgive, which means at no point can you ever close the door on that consideration, unless there's only very few things in this world that cannot be forgiven from the traditional standpoint. And that is sins that cannot be atoned from in the practical sense. Okay, that covers a few things. If you take the name of God in vain, which means to misuse the name of God to falsely represent what it stands for, causing other people to falsely hate God because you gave them the wrong impression of Him, that's unforgivable. But that's all of religion today. Very funny. Murder, because you can't bring the person back to life. So for the people who are still around, you've stolen the life from that person, and you've stolen the family member of that family. Neither of those two debts you could pay back physically. So you are sentenced to death yourself. That's where capital punishment comes in. Because in that case, it is an eye for an eye. But the third thing, there's another thing that would result in death in Israel. was what? Cheating. Understand? That if you had a bond with a man, especially if it was formally recognized, but there's substantive exceptions to this. Okay, there's form and substance, as you know. If you're caught with another guy, you're sentenced to death, and the guy who contributed to this. Dead. Why? Because the violation, because when you take a husband and wife and you bring them together under God, the union is so deeply bound that for the woman, and note, I only say woman, and there's a deeper reason for that, and it has a lot to do with just how the ancient Chinese held yin and yang to be different combinations. Also here, the ancient Israelis knew the same thing. It's a different substantive violation for a man to cheat and a woman to cheat. But we know this intuitively in our hearts anyway, don't we? That's for another time. As for here, in Israel, we knew that if the woman was caught cheating, that husband could never again trust her, but there's nothing she could do in 100 years to, and what's the standard in rebuke and in forgiveness? To be restored to the level as if the original transgression had never even happened. That's the point at which forgiveness can be petitioned for and must be given if you're a moral person yourself. It can never be given at any time before that rightly. If your woman cheats on you, let me tell you, man, I could have 10 crazy fucking people from the street come in here, beat me up, take my TV, you know, and I have nothing else in here. I live in poverty, obviously. This is the life of a monk. You understand? Mm-hmm. Who has brain damage. And every other damn thing going on in my life. Okay? I'm getting cut in again, and then yeah. Okay, right. What was I saying? I could have all those guys come in here and take all my things. It could be so bad, right? At the emotional level, you're like, damn, these people and how they're screwing me, you know? Transgression, like, oh, I thought you were my friends. We had lunch last week. How dare you, you know? Real betrayal. Even that betrayal is 1,000 times easier to forgive as a practical matter. Because as bad as that is, they are capable of coming back tomorrow or next week or next year and saying, I really had a change of heart, I'm sorry. It was wrong what I did. I was caught up in the wrong things. I wasn't myself. Here you are. Here's a TV. Let me be your servant for the next, 3 years and make it up to you. And I would, and maybe a year in, I would just say, look, man, like you really showed me your value and you're changed and you're good. You have honor in your heart again, in my heart. Stand up on your feet. You're forgiven. You shake their hand. You see, even a robber you can be his friend again. It's possible. It is impossible to be forgiven if you've cheated and you're a woman, because the man will never trust you again. 25 years later, you're a piece of shit and you deserve to be in pain and suffering for what you did. Is in the heart is the only thing is incapable by wiring to forgive in a genuine sense. All other crazy shit can be forgiven. I could set fire to your house, and your heart is more amenable to being okay with me one day than the woman who cheated on you, if you're a man. You understand?
Yeah.
So know what unforgivable sin is. But lying to me wasn't it. So I had an obligation to withdraw. You're low. You're cut off. I'm free to do whatever I want, mind you, because I've discontinued courting with you. And if you want to come back and petition me to court with you some more and give you some more attention, well, let's see if you're worth it. But for my life, I could do whatever I want. Within about a week's time, she comes back. She's begging, please, please, I'm so sorry, I'll never, I promise you, it's the first time I relied, but I was sick in the head, but I really am thinking clear, I'm going to fix everything. I will not do that job anymore. I will quit that job, and I will speak to the employer at the place I work at and say, I cannot be here anymore. Good. I won't lie to you, I'm going to be such a good girl, I promise. I'm going to be like living on my knees. You didn't say it literally, but it's figuratively, that's what you're offering. I'm going to be every extra special good that you can be to show that I'm making up for the crap of having offended you this way. Now, any reasonable person in the situation, you understand, and isn't that obviously what would be owed at the minimum?
Yeah.
You would agree. It's the same thing like probation. If you're guilty, but the court wants to have mercy because it's your first time making an offense, what do they usually offer if it's not a really crazy offense? You don't have to go to jail. You don't have to go to jail. Show for a protracted period of time that you are completely regulated, you are completely pure, you never make any additional crime in this long protracted period again, or you go to jail for this crime and the new crime. You see that? But if you pass the probationary period, you are elevated back to full stature in society. That's the concept. It pulls at the correct moral heartstrings of every person who's alive and understands how life works. That is sense. That's correct. So she offered me all these things. So, well, I had several days away from her, but she tried, she begged. So what do I say? What's my duty? She begs, she promises with new promises. I'll be better. I won't make any new problems for you again. Okay. You're welcome back. You show me you're good on probation. Listen, Sarah, let me tell you. The day that you have successfully made up for the debt of your original transgression against me, you will be fully forgiven, and the relationship will be fully, officially back on track and growing the way it would have been had it not been for this lying that you did. Okay? Yes. All right. About a few weeks later, she's sitting here. We're, cutting open Pokemon cards for my Pokemon card business that I was selling, making a little bit. Yeah. Oh, which, by the way, we're still waiting on some of that. It should be good. Okay. And then she just starts saying, that woman I was seeing. I'm not seeing her anymore. She's so upset. I don't know. Yeah, of course she's upset. I bet. I don't know what she's upset about. She's just upset. That I slept with this other guy. I don't know. I don't understand. If only it could be shown on video right now how you're shaking your head. Okay? She's in my life 6 months already. How do you like that?
I don't like
Huh? Say that out loud because you're stunned.
I don't like that at all.
First time you're hearing about this, aren't you? Like with just the most inept thing possible. Like she's not even realizing who she's saying this to. Right. And by the way, the day I met her, I knew that her medications were fucking with her brain. And it was just a matter of time before it would be exposed. But sometimes these processes take shorter, sometimes they're longer. Yeah. They're saying, everything is fine. Because when you're on SSRIs, everything is fine. You understand?
You're forcibly steamrolling the new glaze over the old symptoms so that they don't come up. The only way to do that is to permapress "this is fine" into your neurology, so you can't feel anything ever again. You're not present to the negative consequences of your actions in the life that you're living, that you make. It slows your learning curve. And we'll get into that later, because that's becomes more relevant in the later parts of the story. But there we are. This is probably February of 2021. This was a year ago exactly. Yeah, I slept with this guy. Huh? Oh, what do you mean? Oh, you're mad too? Oh, as if just, I don't understand anything. Why would anyone be mad at that? Why? Because in the rigid autistic land, where you have, instead of central coherence, you have context blindness, things are taken out of context and you form false constructs of reality in your mind. Everyone does, but the higher degree of autistic-like structuring you have in your brain, how your nervous system works, the farther away from objective reality your construct is. She starts saying, yeah, but okay, but you told me that we're not exclusive. And let's stop this file and we'll start a new file, because again, we're about 2 hours here.